Ontario College of Teachers. Great teaching.
I never felt compelled to go outside. I think I always chose to go outside. And I remember a sense of freedom and also quiet. I think it was a little bit of an escape for me. I often was playing by myself. I felt like I was living a little bit of a fantasy world. But really through my whole public school career, I felt like a square peg in a round hole. I just felt like I didn't fit in, and as I got older, I started to realize that lots of other kids felt that way too. In some senses, forest school levels the playing field.
The concept of forest school is certainly not something I've come up with. It's a model of education that originated in Denmark in the 50s and has been spreading worldwide since then. Some children are kinesthetic learners, and it's really amazing to see how they thrive in this setting. They definitely build on that momentum, which is nice.
Kids aren't expected to fit any kind of mold. They're not expected to fit my agenda or any other adult's agenda. They come as they are, and instead of them meeting my standard, it's my job to do that work to meet them where they are.
Learning happens when people care, when they're engaged, when they're curious, and when kids are outside and adults are outside, that's what they find. And I love trying to say as little as possible and just watch what happens. A simple, oh, did you hear that? And just to see where the kids take it. And it's amazing afterwards to think about and to point out to parents and other teachers all the learning that was actually going on.
So much of it, the sort of like traditional method is you plan beforehand what you're going to do, and then you enact it, and then you check mark like, oh, these are all the things that we got through. Whereas here, it's very much, you don't know what's going to happen. You just kind of let it unfold in front of you, and then go back at the end of the day and think, okay, well, this was very obviously like mathematical curriculum. This was categorizing and classifying, or this was descriptive language. This was scientific language. And it's so easy to backcast and say everything that you see them doing out here is learning. There are curriculum links everywhere, and there's also the socio-emotional learning that you don't necessarily always get the support for in a more traditional classroom.
Kids really grow in terms of their resourcefulness and their resilience. Sometimes people describe it as grit, and there's a lot of articles coming out now about how those kind of soft skills, that grit, is one of the fundamental indicators of success, especially in our world that's changing so much.
We are helping kids learn how to self-regulate, how to make decisions that are safe for themselves. That means whether or not they should climb a tree or jump from a rock to a rock or put a stick a certain way into the fire. And maybe when they go home, that means can they cross the street okay on their own or ride their bike that certain distance. It makes a lot of sense that young people who learn how to assess risk and their own abilities and make decisions based on whether or not they feel safe, if you learn that when you're young, I expect you'll continue to do that when you're older.
Well, at Forest School Canada, we've got a pretty big vision, which is that we would like this to become mainstream. We would like to make this kind of learning accessible to everybody. So starting to work with the public boards to make it possible to address, the real legitimate concerns that are there about curriculum and about safety, to make it possible, to make it more mainstream. I would say that's the big long-term vision of Forest School Canada, and that's really my passion as well.
Learn more at OCT.ca.